You are part of this family, Michael, so it's your duty to help us. Then I discovered that my father took out a $20,000 loan in my name for my sister's vacation, and he had no intention of paying it back. I didn't stand idly by. My name is Michael Carter. I'm 28 years old, and I've worked hard to get where I am today. Ever since I graduated with a degree in business administration, I've saved every penny and built an independent life for myself. I'm not a millionaire, but I have stability. A good job at a consulting firm and a quiet life in my apartment in New York City. However, everything changed the day I received a call from the bank. Mr. Carter, we need to discuss the loan you recently applied for. I frowned. Loan? I haven't applied for any loan. There was an awkward silence on the line before the woman from the bank continued. We're referring to the $20,000 loan that was approved 2 months ago. We've noticed that no payments have been made, and we wanted to check if there was a problem. My heart started pounding. There must be some mistake, I said, feeling a cold shiver run down my spine. I never applied for any loan. The loan is registered under your name, Mr. Carter, and the funds were transferred to an account linked to your last name. My stomach twisted. I asked for details, and as I listened, I felt the air leave my lungs. The account the money had been transferred to belonged to my father. I hung up without saying goodbye and immediately called my mother. She answered with her usual sweet tone. Michael, son, I was just thinking about calling you. Mom, I said, my voice tense. Explain to me why there's a $20,000 loan in my name that was transferred to Dad's account. The silence that followed confirmed my worst fear. Mike, son, she began, trying to sound conciliatory. We needed it. Needed it? I repeated, feeling my blood boil. You took out a loan in my name without my consent. How could you do this? Son, don't overreact. My father interjected in his usual tone, as if nothing serious had happened. We took care of you your whole life, gave you everything, and now we're just asking for a little help. I swallowed hard. Help? I spat in anger. This isn't help. This is betrayal. My mother sighed. Son, we only did it because we knew you could handle it. You have a good job, you earn well. Besides, we used it to pay off your Uncle David's debt and to help your sister. I felt the ground crumble beneath me. What? You know your sister Jessica has been struggling financially. My mother continued in a pleading tone. It's been a tough year for her, and that is not my problem. I shouted. That's her responsibility, not mine. Michael, don't be selfish, my father said coldly. We're a family. You have stability. It's not like this is going to ruin you. I closed my eyes tightly, trying to contain my anger. I'm going to fix this. And trust me, you're not going to get away with it. I hung up before they could make more excuses. There was no turning back. They had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and now I had only one option, to fight back. My hands trembled as I reviewed the information the bank had sent me. Everything was in order: my name, my account number, the loan amount, and my mother's signature. How was this possible? And then I remembered. It was a rainy night in New York City. I was in the hospital waiting room, my heart pounding in my throat. My mother sat beside me, crying into her hands. Michael, please, son. It's Dad. They're going to operate, and we don't have the money right now. My father had suffered a severe heart attack. Although he had health insurance, his policy didn't cover part of the surgery costs, and the hospital demanded an immediate payment of $20,000 to proceed. I rushed to the nearest bank, desperate to get the money. But when I asked for a loan, their response hit me like a bucket of ice water. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, but your credit history is still too recent. We would need more time to approve an amount like this. I ran a hand over my forehead, feeling the weight of the world crashing down on me. We couldn't wait. Every minute mattered. I can apply for the loan, my mother suddenly said. My credit profile is stronger, but we need you to sign an authorization so I can process it in your name. Mike, sweetheart, it's just a piece of paper. This way we can get the money quickly and save your father. I didn't think twice. I didn't have the mental clarity to read any terms or conditions. All I wanted was to save my father. I grabbed the pen and signed. The surgery was a success. My father recovered. And over time, I forgot about that signature. I never revoked the authorization because I thought it didn't matter. Just in case, I told myself. I never imagined that just in case would become the weapon they would use against me. I clenched my jaw. I stood up abruptly, feeling like the air in my apartment wasn't enough. Everything made sense now. With that general authorization, my mother had been able to apply for the loan without me being present. And since the amount was only $20,000, the bank didn't require further verification. It was legal. And at the same time, it was a knife in my back. My phone vibrated with a new message from my mother. Mike, sweetheart, please don't overreact. This was all for the good of the family. When you have time, come home, and we'll talk calmly. I took a deep breath. No, I wasn't going to let this slide. I grabbed my jacket, my wallet, and my car keys. If they thought they could play with my money, they were about to find out how wrong they were. I drove through the city, barely noticing the traffic lights or the music playing on the radio. I had only one destination in mind, my parents' house. The rage burned in my chest, but I forced myself to stay in control. Couldn't arrive yelling. Not yet. When I parked in front of their house, I took a deep breath. I couldn't believe that after everything I had done to be independent, I had to come back here, as if I were a child in need of an explanation. I rang the doorbell. My mother opened the door with a nervous smile. Michael, son, I'm so glad you came. I didn't respond. I walked straight into the living room, where my father sat in his favorite chair, the TV remote in his hand. He barely looked at me. I told you not to overreact, he said impatiently. This is just a misunderstanding. I let out a dry laugh. A misunderstanding? Taking out a loan in my name without my permission is a misunderstanding? Don't shout. My mother interrupted, trying to sound conciliatory. Sit down. Let's talk as a family. I crossed my arms. I'm not sitting down until you explain why you did this. My mother sighed and looked at my father as if waiting for him to speak. But he just shrugged. Listen, Michael, she started, using that sweet voice she always used when trying to manipulate me. You have a good job, stability. We just needed a little help. Help? I spat the word with disgust. $20,000 is not a little help. We were going to pay it back, my father said without even looking away from the television. But then things got complicated. Things got complicated? I repeated in disbelief. Because you never even planned to tell me about it. My mother shifted uncomfortably. We knew you would get upset. And yet you did it anyway. Why? She lowered her gaze. It was for your sister. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. For Jessica? My mother nodded. Your sister has been going through a tough time, Michael. She lost her job, she's drowning in debt. And, well, she needed help. Rage mixed with disbelief. So you decided that I should pay for her mistakes. She's your sister, my father replied coldly. Family helps each other. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying not to lose my temper. Where is Jessica? My mother hesitated. She's not here. Where is she? No one answered. And then I knew. She's on vacation, isn't she? The silence from my parents was confirmation enough. I let out a bitter laugh. I can't believe this. My mother tried to justify herself. Son, she was really stressed. She needed a break. A break? My voice cracked with fury. I'm the one who has to pay off this loan, and she's the one who needed a break? My father set the remote down on the table and looked at me with irritation. That's enough, Michael. It's just money. I stared at him. No, Dad. It's my money. My name. My future. You're acting like you're broke, he scoffed. Paying this isn't going to kill you. I took a step closer. I'm not paying a single dollar. Well, we'll see how you handle it then, he shot back. Because the bank is coming after you. That's exactly what we're going to discuss now, I said, pulling a set of documents from my jacket. I have options, and you're not going to like any of them. My mother's eyes widened in fear. Mike, please. No, Mom. This is over. The silence that followed felt like a massive gap between us. My mother stared at me with watery eyes, hoping I would soften. My father, on the other hand, kept his hardened expression, arms crossed, like he was already tired of the conversation. Michael, please. My mother begged. This is something we can fix together. I gritted my teeth and slammed the papers onto the table with a sharp thud. There's nothing to fix, Mom. I just want to understand at what point you thought this was okay. My father scoffed. Stop being dramatic. It's just a loan, not the end of the world. My jaw clenched. Not for you, of course. You don't have to pay it back. It was for your sister. My mother insisted, as if repeating it again would somehow justify what they had done. We knew you'd be upset. But, Mike, you have money. We don't. So you decided the best thing to do was take it without asking. Don't see it that way. My mother protested. It was just a favor. No, Mom. A favor is something you ask for, not something you steal. She lowered her head, but my father stood his ground. Look, kid, I don't feel guilty about this. We did what had to be done. No. I slammed my palm onto the table. What you did was selfish and dishonest. My mother started sobbing, but my father barely reacted. And what are you going to do? He said sarcastically. Sue us? I was silent for a moment. If I have to, I will. My mother covered her mouth in horror. Don't talk like that, please. We're your family. Family? I repeated bitterly. A real family wouldn't do this. My father leaned forward. Think carefully before you act. This could have consequences. I laughed in disbelief. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you to think before you act. His cold tone made it clear he wasn't going to back down. He wasn't used to being questioned. He had always been the one who had the last word in this house. But now the rules had changed. If you think I'm going to carry this loan, you're very mistaken, I said firmly. I'm going to talk to the bank. They're not going to cancel it, my father countered. It's in your name. You signed the authorization. It's legal. I know, I said with a calmness I didn't feel. But that doesn't mean I can't do something about it. I took out my phone and dialed my lawyer's number. Michael? What's going on? I need to see you as soon as possible, I said bluntly. It's urgent. My mother looked at me in panic. You can't do this, Michael. I ignored her. Tomorrow morning. Your office. Understood. I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my pocket. I'm going to find a way to undo this mess. My mother broke into sobs. Why are you doing this to us? She's your sister. No, Mom. You did this to me. I turned and walked toward the door. Mike, please. Her voice was a broken whisper of desperation. I hesitated for a moment but didn't look back. We'll talk when I fix this, I said before stepping out and shutting the door behind me. I sat on my apartment couch, a glass of whiskey in my hand, staring into the empty space. My phone buzzed repeatedly with calls from my mother, but I ignored every one of them. Then, a message from Jessica. Mike, Mom told me what happened. I didn't want it to be like this. I'm sorry. The rage boiled inside me again. You knew they used my money, and you didn't say anything. 3 dots appeared on the screen. She was typing, but the message never came. I clenched the glass in my fingers. My phone rang again, but this time it wasn't my mother or Jessica. It was Josh, my best friend. I hesitated before answering. What's up? Man, what happened? Your mom called me crying. I closed my eyes, exhausted. The usual, Josh. My family making decisions for me like I don't matter. What did they do now? I let out a long breath. They took out a loan in my name without telling me. $20,000 so Jessica could go on a luxury vacation. Josh let out a low whistle. Are you serious? Completely. There was silence. What are you going to do? Family? I repeated bitterly. A real family wouldn't do this. The first move. I walked out of my lawyer's office with my head held high. My next stop was the bank. I went straight to the branch manager, a middle-aged man with a tired expression and a blue tie. I want an immediate review of the loan listed under my account, I said firmly. The man looked at his screen and frowned. Mr. Carter, the loan was already approved, and the funds were used. We cannot cancel it. I want to see the documents I supposedly signed. The manager hesitated for a moment, but after seeing my expression, he ordered his assistant to retrieve the files. When they handed me the folder, I opened it with tense hands. Everything seemed in order. My signature was there, but something caught my attention. This email address isn't mine, I said, pointing at a field on the application. The manager squinted at the document. That's the registered contact email for notifications. The email had my mother's last name. They had altered my contact details to make sure I never received any notification about the loan. I leaned over the desk. This is a direct violation of the contract terms. You issued a loan without confirming the identity of the applicant. If this gets to the media, you're going to have a serious problem. The man swallowed hard. I'll escalate this to the legal department, but I can't promise anything. I smiled coldly. Do it. But just so you know, my lawyer is already preparing a lawsuit. I stood up and left the bank without looking back. When I arrived at my parents' house that evening, my mother greeted me with a pale face. Michael, please, we need to talk. I already spoke with the bank, I said flatly. I found out you changed my email on the loan application. My mother's face went completely white. Son, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You stole from me. She started crying. But this time, I felt nothing. My father appeared in the living room, frowning. Are we still on this? Yes, I said, locking eyes with him. And this time I have proof. I threw the folder with the documents onto the table. Do you know what this means? It means that what you did wasn't just dishonest. It was illegal. My father grabbed the papers with tense hands. And what do you plan to do? I already took action. If the bank doesn't cancel the debt, I'll sue you. My mother covered her mouth with both hands. Michael, we're your family. You didn't act like family when you decided to ruin my life. At that moment, Jessica walked into the room, tanned, sunglasses still resting on her head. What's going on? When she saw the documents on the table and the look on my parents' faces, she understood everything. Mike, you knew what they were doing, and you let it happen. She lowered her gaze. I didn't think it was that serious. Of course you didn't. I laughed bitterly. Because you weren't the one who had to pay for it. My father glared at me with hatred. If you do this, you'll end up alone. I took a step toward the door. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by liars. I walked out without looking back, my mother's sobs and my father's angry shouts echoing behind me. But I didn't care. I had won the first battle. The bank's verdict. The bank didn't take long to respond. Just 48 hours after I filed my formal complaint, I received an email from their legal department, summoning me for an urgent meeting. I knew this moment would come. I put on a black suit, fastened the button on my jacket, and left my apartment with a dangerous calm. Today was the day everything would change. The bank manager's office had a cold, professional atmosphere. A man with gray hair and thin glasses shook my hand cautiously. Mr. Carter, we've reviewed your case. Crossing my arms, I looked at him with no expression. And? What's the decision? The man adjusted his glasses and picked up a folder of documents. We've found irregularities in the loan approval process. Since your email was changed without your consent, and there was no verbal confirmation on your part, the bank has decided, my heart pounded, to nullify the debt and cancel the loan. I did it, but I didn't smile. What happens to those responsible? I asked in a neutral tone. The manager closed the folder. Since the funds were transferred to your father's account, he is now solely responsible for repaying the money. I held back a laugh. Perfect. Anything else? Yes. Our legal team will be reaching out to your family to resolve this matter as soon as possible. I stood up and shook his hand. I appreciate your cooperation. I walked out of the bank without rushing, clenching my fists as adrenaline surged through me. Now, for the next strike. I didn't go to my parents' house. Instead, I summoned them to a luxury restaurant where I knew they would feel completely out of place. I made them wait half an hour before I arrived, relishing the discomfort on their faces. My father sat with a deep frown. My mother stared at the floor, tears pooling in her eyes, and Jessica could barely look at me. I sat down calmly and placed my phone on the table. Why did you make us come here? My father asked irritably. I tilted my head slightly, savoring every second. Because I wanted to see your faces when I told you that the bank canceled the debt. And now you, Dad, are the only one responsible for paying the $20,000. The color drained from my father's face. What did you just say? The bank found irregularities, so they passed the bill to you. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God! Jessica let out a shaky gasp. Mike, please no. But my father slammed his fist against the table. You're ruining us. You're leaving us with no options. I let out a cold laugh. No, you ruined yourselves. The silence that followed was suffocating. We can't pay that amount, my mother whispered. We're pensioners. I took my glass of water and drank slowly. Then sell the car, or the house, or ask Jessica for money. But don't ask me for anything. Jessica squirmed in her seat. I don't have that kind of money. I leaned toward her. You don't? But you had enough for a luxury vacation, didn't you? She said nothing. Michael, please. My mother tried to plead. I raised a hand. I don't want to hear excuses. The only thing I want to see is how you deal with the consequences of your own actions. My father stood up abruptly. You're selfish. I stared at him. And you betrayed me in the worst way. We locked eyes in silence. He was the first to look away. Without another word, I stood up, grabbed my phone, and walked toward the exit. Before leaving, I delivered the final blow. Good luck paying off that debt. I left the restaurant, leaving behind a family that was no longer mine. 1 year later. Mike, I know you don't want to talk to me, but Mom isn't doing well. She's been really depressed since everything happened. Dad had to sell the car, and now they barely leave the house. The debt destroyed all of us. Please, just tell me that we're still family. Jessica's message remained unanswered. I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of wine on the terrace of my new apartment in Los Angeles. Tomorrow I had a flight to Japan. Life moved on. But my relationship with my family never did. Final update. Answering Reddit comments. How could you not help your parents? They gave you food and shelter. If they had asked, I would have considered it. But they didn't. They stole. But you signed the authorization. It's your fault. Yes, trusting them. I left it active because I thought they would only use it in a real emergency. My mistake was believing my family would never betray me. If your sister was struggling, why didn't she pay for her own vacation? Because she had no money. She was used to her ex-husband covering her luxuries. When she was left on her own, she decided she deserved a break. At my expense. Don't you think you were too harsh on your family? No. They never apologized. They called me selfish. They said family helps each other. Help? No. They used me. So I did the only thing I could. I taught them what happens when you take what isn't yours. What do you think, Reddit? Was I right or should I have given in?